Folks, a very special edition of College Sports Now. Why, you ask? We're going to talk basketball for the next hour or so. There's still football to be discussed. Don't worry. Plenty of college football playoff discussion coming later in the week. Ohio State plays Notre Dame for a national championship. Buckeyes are favored by 9. I don't think it's going to be a competitive game. We'll talk a little bit about that with Matt Norlander. He is back by popular demand. You know him from the Eye on College Basketball podcast, and, of course, all things CBS Sports these days. Norlander has a billboard or some sort of like LED signage in Times Square. Popular guy these days. Norlander, how are you living, brother? Good to see you.
I'm living great. I'm getting a telemarketer calling me 30 seconds into our show. What is, like, have you noticed an uptick, by the way?
Yes.
And this, like,
Yeah.
I didn't get, you'd get the occasional spam calls, but specifically in the past, like, week and a half, maybe since we hit the new year, maybe a little bit before, I'd say once a day I'm getting a spam call and it just says telemarketer.
It's really bad for your boy. I lived in a quote-unquote battleground state of North Carolina, so it was really bad leading up to the election, and it's died off a little bit, but it's still bad. Speaking of living in North Carolina, I want to paint this picture for you.
Yeah.
Like most of us living in the southeastern United States, mid-Atlantic region, your boy got some snow over the weekend. There was some significant winter precipitation.
Love it.
Now, I'm in the western part of the state. We call it the Piedmont. It's not quite the foothills. It's definitely not the mountains. We got about 2.5, maybe 3 inches of snow, okay? There is a guy who lives a couple, not like, I don't have a neighbor per se. Everybody's got space. I'm in the woods. But a couple houses down, there's a guy who was skiing through my yard on Saturday morning.
Okay.
Now, you're a skier.
I
okay?
am. But I'm a downhill guy.
You're a downhill skier. Okay, these were skis that had like little propulsion things on the back. Like, I guess they were cross country skiing. He just kept kind of.
Yeah.
He was pushing, but his skis stayed on the ground.
I don't know what those are called, but I know exactly what you're saying. Yes.
So he skied through the front yard. He waved to the kids.
Hold on. Do you know the guy?
No, I don't. I've never introduced myself.
I feel like now I don't know the contours of your neighborhood. I feel like if you're going to do that move, and if the yard sizes are equal, if the front yard is as big as the backyard, you got to go backyard more than front yard. Doing that at front yard's almost a stunt. It's borderline disrespectful if you don't know him.
I was not offended. I actually found it to be pretty entertaining.
All right, cool.
But I thought of you because I'm like, look, we're going to talk hoops. This is a sign. It's a sign from the basketball gods. Norlander and I are going to talk basketball. Here's this Norlander lookalike rolling through the front yard. He had like the hat. He didn't have the goggles going, but he had like the mouth thing. You know, it was cold. Man. It was in the 20s. The Gator, yes. So anyway, here we are. We're talking college basketball. We will unpack everything from a pretty entertaining weekend. I'm actually looking ahead to Saturday, Norlander. We do this show called The Blitz for football season.
I'm very aware of The Blitz.
You've dialed in, okay? We are actually doing breaking news here on the show. We're doing a basketball blitz on Saturday because every game in the top 25 we have access to. We can tap into all this stuff. Maybe there'll be a team that sneaks into the top 25 like Pitt that we don't have access to currently. But my point is, basketball season's picking up. We got all these matchups in the top 25. Things are getting spicy. Things are getting fun. So let's talk some hoops, man. We got some storylines. We got to talk about the SEC. We got to talk about what Cooper Flagg did over the weekend, dropping 42, and everything else that's going on in the world of hoops. So you gave me some homework. You wanted me to come up with some storylines.
I just wanted you to surprise me on the show because it's good to be back. We're easing back in. There's been some folks asking when the hoops edition of CSN Now is coming back, and so here we are. I think you wanted to randomly do like a preseason preview in October, but I was traveling some. You were just nipple deep in football, and we couldn't.
Well, what else happened in October, Norland? I mean, do you want to let the viewers know about your inability to catch a flight and like make it down to
that was true.
Salem?
That's also correct.
I mean, that's kind of sad. I mean, you're a grown ass man. You missed a flight. No. You couldn't make time for the Deeks, but somehow you made time for the Heels and
I didn't make time
Blue
for the
Devils.
Heels. If we want to turn back the clock real quick, you're correct. We were supposed to rendezvous in person for the first time ever.
I did my research. I found a pescatarian-friendly restaurant in Winston-Salem. All these things, man, and then you didn't catch your flight. It's tough.
here's why the show is fun, because it's going to be at least 8 minutes before we really address the opening topic. I flew from LaGuardia to Raleigh in October, and I was doing that because I was doing a story on Duke and some other things with Duke, and then I was going to do something on RJ Davis with UNC. But I also was going to be, I was leaving early on, call it a Wednesday or Tuesday, I don't remember.
Yes.
And I was going to land well in time to drive the 2 hours or hour and a half from RDU to Wake Forest to watch the Deeks.
Check in on your sleeper. Check in on your ACC sleeper.
Had Wake Forest as a preseason top 15 team. Let's check in with the latest at KenPom. 79 in the country, although they are 12-4, but the metrics don't love them just yet. But for the first time in my life, I missed a flight. And I missed a flight because the traffic from Connecticut down to LaGuardia, if it's bad traffic, I always give myself the cushion. If it's bad traffic, it's 2 hours. No traffic, like if I were to, land at midnight at LaGuardia, let's say I'm hopping in the Uber at 12:15 at night, I'm home by 1:20. It's barely over an hour with no traffic from my house to LaGuardia. So with bad traffic, it's 2 hours. The traffic was more than 2.5 hours. I'm on the phone. I'm texting on the app with Delta. Hey, I'm late. Am I going to make this flight? And the person that's texting me is like, yeah, we think you can make it. We're letting the plane know. I mean, I become the jerk that's like, my flight is leaving. I'm so sorry, but these people let me cut in front of them. I basically bypass what would have been, I have clear, and I still bypassed what would have been another 10 minutes in security to get through. I get on through there. Although I think I remember waiting like longer than I was hoping for with like the shoes off and people going slow. But you know what? It's your own problem. You're late.
Yeah,
don't worry about other people that are taking their time.
Yes, accurate.
I get through. I check my gate. And then, of course, it says, let's just say it was gate 79. And so you could look right and then you look left. And I'm like, okay, so left is gates 1 through 60 and gates right are 61 through 99 or whatever. So I'm like, okay, here. And they have, this was just such a cosmic joke on me. They have, all right, to this section, it will be a 10-minute walk. And at this point, my flight is 5 minutes from its departure time. But I'm like, I can run. If I run, I might just barely get it. I mean, I book it. And I got to go downstairs and on the walking escalator. I am hustling. I am an idiot running through this airport. And then my gate happened to be when you got to a certain part, you turned a corner. It was the first gate. And so I could tell that I was getting on. And I was like, come on. I turned the corner. Ghost town. There is nobody there. No gate agent, no passengers. The plane is nowhere near. The plane was nowhere near it. I came to learn after the fact that for the most part, airlines, let's say you have a 8:30 time departure flight, that door is closed at 8:20. You don't have until 8:30 to get on the plane. You have until essentially 10 minutes before that. And so it was, I couldn't help but just laugh standing there by myself, heaving for oxygen, sweating at this point. And I was able to get rebooked on a flight, which actually then wound up being delayed another 2 hours, which was why I got in later. I never got to Wake Forest. We never met up in October. And so here we finally rendezvous on a Monday edition in the second week of January of CSN.
It's tough. And, look, like Wake has tried to do their part. Like you said, they're 12-4. Got a couple of big home games coming up with Duke and UNC, I think, next week. But, yeah, Tie-Dye Nation has not yet brought you down here, exclusively to take in some Wake Forest basketball.
We're going to get to your storylines. I had 3 buy-high teams in the preseason, and 2 of them are working out so far. Wake Forest is not. St. John's will be ranked when the polls refresh here on Monday.
Solid.
I had St. John's like 12 or 13. They haven't even hit the level that I had them at it, but they've been good so far to this point. Rick Pitino's doing a really nice job. St. John's is 14-3 and registering as a top 20 team in the metrics. And the other one that I was big on that was a really aggressive push that I don't really think anyone else was Michigan. Michigan's 13-3, and it's a top 15 team in predictives right now. And they've got a good thing going on. I'll have something on the Wolverines on Wednesday in my weekly court report for CBSSports.com. That being said, you've been all invested for the most part in football. I think you've seen a couple of games so far this season. But for someone who follows the sport but can drift in and out, I want to see your perspective, hear your perspective, and I know you listen to the CBS pod here and there, but
I do check in with you and GP. Yes, it's an entertaining
but
show.
before you're really into it, you're getting into the muck of the season. I want to know what the 4 or 5 biggest stories, talking points, things connected to college basketball this season to you. What stands out the most, good, bad, or otherwise? You agree with? You don't agree with? How do you see the sport before we dive into the weekend?
All right, top 5.
Yep.
We'll go in chronological order here. I do have. I'm reading off of notes here. It's.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
You couldn't even be bothered to get a spiral bond mini notebook. You're going with Post-its.
I'm running. I'm in the office today. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, apologies, but I'm not as organized as I normally am on a Monday morning because I have not. My kids are not in school. They were in school 2 days last week.
That's just atrocious.
Tomorrow doesn't look promising either. Okay?
Oh my!
I got to be honest. Like it's getting up to 45 today. There will be some melt, but it's all going to refreeze. And the school buses out here, down here, they just can't. It's a thing, dude. It's a real we're just not built. We don't have salt trucks. We don't have plows. We don't have it in the quantity that we need. And I knew this was going to happen on Friday when I saw it coming down. I was like, dude, if we get 3 inches, we're going to be paralyzed, and we are. So anyway, top 5 storylines for college basketball for me. Yep. I did check in during November, man, the non-conference weirdness.
Yeah.
UConn, go to Hawaii, lose 3 in a row.
I was there.
They've only lost 1 since. That was recently to Villanova, which was pretty interesting. Was it Caravan who missed the 2 free throws late?
He did. He missed 2 foul shots late. It was a little bit of a ball don't
lie. Yes, very much. Yeah. But the UConn thing was weird. Memphis, question mark, exclamation point. You love to see it. Penny, let's go.
They got something to them. Now they're playing obscurity in the American, which is going to be, if Memphis goes to the tournament, it'll probably be a 1-bid league. But they had a great non-conference schedule. They did well in Maui, and the Tigers have They have done well for themselves after a very ambitious and aggressive non-conference schedule. They overexceeded the expectations.
Yeah, they're fun. So that's good to see. And then it wouldn't be a November non-conference discussion without our beloved Gonzaga Bulldogs, who found a way to just destroy Baylor to start the season, and then just kind of limp home with some non-conference losses down the stretch. So now they're in an obscure WCC play with the likes of Washington State and St. Mary's, among others, but just just kind of a
super obscure
mid-showing for Gonzaga. Just
fair enough, but the WCC overall is rating healthy this season. Gonzaga will wind up having 1 or 2 additional quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities than it otherwise has been afforded in recent seasons. So point well taken. Gonzaga already up to 5-0 in the league, as is St. Mary's, which is also tracking per usual to be an NCAA tournament team. But the Zags did drop 4 in non-conference play, and they're a little bit of for the first 3 weeks of the season, we thought, okay, this can be a great team again. And now it's more like it can be good to pretty good. Let's just see how they do over the next couple of months.
Okay. If you haven't gone back, look, there's a lot going on in the college sports world.
Yeah.
If you haven't, I know you saw it, Norlander, because you're just a hoops junkie and you mainline this stuff all the time. One of the funniest things that's happened all year in college basketball happened to Gonzaga on the very first game of the season when Mark Few put his son in the final 2 minutes of the basketball game, and he got absolutely yammed on by Baylor in a 40-point blowout.
It was VJ Edgecombe, who will be probably a lottery pick.
Okay, one of the best dunks of the college basketball season happened at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, the day after college basketball season started, because that was an 11 or 11:30.
It was a late tip because ESPN had. I don't want to bore the viewers, listeners, whatever.
Just look it up. Look it up, people.
ESPN had the broadcast rights, and that was on Monday Night Football, and ESPN didn't want to give up the rights to broadcast that game, and so the only window that it could get it on was ESPN2 with an 11:15 start time on the first night of the season.
So the dunk happened. 9 people saw it live. Norlander.
I didn't even see it live because that game was Gonzaga was rolling them, and so I tapped out with at the first TV time out of the second half.
Just look it up. Because Mark Few's kid is about what you'd expect. He's a short little white guy, and he tried to go up, and this guy for Baylor just kept going. Okay, he ascended, and it was fantastic. The guy ended up on his back. The Gonzaga student section, people are horrified. It happened right in front of him. It was just amazing. Anyway, all right, you knew we were going to talk SEC basketball on the show.
Yeah,
it made my list, but not for the reasons that you might think.
Okay.
Gators, Okay, Florida, welcome back. And then Georgia. Like we can talk about who you think is a fraud in this league because the non-conference metrics have the SEC as like the best non-conference,
easily the best,
like conference performance we've ever seen. Like what they did, right? Like Auburn and Tennessee at the top, obviously, but just going down the list. I mean, you mentioned St. John's. Like Georgia has a nice win over St. John's earlier in the season. So some surprise teams. Florida had a messy preseason with all the Todd Golden stuff that was breaking. And then they have gone out there and what are they, like 15-1, 16-1, something like
Gators
that?
are 15-1, yes.
Incredible. So the SEC is fantastic. We will discuss at greater length a little bit later in the show because I gave you some homework to try to put this into context for the SEC. But it just means more, which is appropriate because there's no SEC football team still playing. Second straight year they've been locked out of the national championship game, but the basketball scene is absolutely rolling. All right, number 3 for me. This is low-hanging fruit. It's a Duke year. It's one of those Duke years. It's not just the Cooper Flagg thing. They got another white guy who's really good, the Knipple kid. So,
that's right.
Like, you've got these
Knipple.
Caucasian monsters, okay, doing their thing for Duke. The Cooper Flagg thing, like you could do a whole show on him, the hype versus like what he's actually doing, which is leading the team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks. Like he is,
across the board.
He is the one that was promised. Okay, so now the pressure is obviously going to ramp up on Shire and company to not just continue to roll through the regular season, but they don't hang banners at Cameron for winning the ACC regular season. You gotta get it done in March and April. So we'll see. Where is the Final Four this year? I should know this, but I don't.
Ooh, let's see if you get it in 3 guesses.
Last year it was in Houston, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Is this an Indy year?
It is not an Indy year. Indy is next season. 2 more guesses.
Oh God.
Come on, just throw out some spots.
Well, I mean, it's one of 5 places.
They have like a
San Antonio.
Correct. That's where it is. There's really like 8 places, but yes, San Antonio, baby, great spot. Very excited to get back to San An.
What do you eat down there, Norlander? Are you just like rice and beans? Like it's a lot of steak.
He's asking this because I'm a pescatarian.
It's a steak city, baby.
There are plenty of options and plenty of Tex-Mex options. I remember hitting a couple of really great spots back in 2018 when the Final Four was last in San Antonio. So
I was there in 2018. I'll have you know, that was the last Final Four I went to. But I was
that was the last Final Four you went to,
right? That was the Ramblers, Sister Jean.
It was the Ramblers. What got you to San Antonio that year?
We had money.
Okay.
I mean, just to put it bluntly, I mean it's not cheap. The hotels at the Final Four. I mean, God Almighty, NCAA. Like you run a nice postseason, but can we find a more affordable housing option for the thousands of people that are coming, some of which to work, not just to party?
Well, some like the NCAA only books 3 hotels, 2 hotels, and that's mostly for media folks adjacent. So I guess you're talking about that. Normally they're halfway decently. They're not the most affordable, but they're not the worst. And then now the other hotel prices are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, I get it. You got to do what you got to do. All right, number 4 for me.
Yeah.
Now, you can make fun of me. You can poke holes on this because that's what you do. I noticed that we're doing the Houston thing again, Norlander. This is like the 4th or 5th year in a row where Houston is just kind of middling. Okay,
you don't know what are you talking about?
They're a good team in the Big 12, but all your boys love them. Okay,
do they?
Number 1 team on Bart Torvik.
Yeah.
Number 3 team on Ken Palm. Evan Mia's got them at 3.
And what's the matter with that? What's the issue? They're killing teams as of late. They have 3 losses. They haven't actually beaten a lot of really good teams, which is notable.
That's my point. That's my problem.
They're going to have the opportunities. We're going to find out in the next 6 weeks. They got to play a lot of good teams on the road to the Big 12.
I just feel like they're overrated. I said it.
Okay, so you think the metrics are overrating them?
Yes, Paper Tigers, January 13th. Hartzell calls Houston overrated.
Okay.
I just need to see it, man. I know they'll get Iowa State. I know that they'll get their shots, but we've done this with Houston, and they just check out early in the tournament. I don't know if I'm ready to get hurt again. How about that?
I mean, check out early. They have made a Final Four, by the way. So you're talking as if that hasn't happened. And this is by far, the best 3-point shooting team Kelvin Sampson's had. 2nd in the country in 3-point percentage accuracy. Keep that in mind because they're still really, really good on defense. They might not be one of the 5 best teams in the country, maybe not, but they rate that right now, and we'll find out over the next, again, 4 to 6 weeks as they play much tougher competition in the Big 12, because the 3 best teams they played non-con to this point they lost to. They lost to Auburn, they lost by 5, they lost to Bama in overtime by 5, and they lost to San Diego State in overtime by 3. So all 3 losses are respectable, but those were the 3 best teams they've played per the metrics so far this season. But I hear you all the same. I still think they've got a chance to, again, just kind of stick in that top 3 to 5 range the entire season, and then we'll see if they can get the damage done and the 3-point shooting can come through.
Listen, you're a parent, okay? You're a father. I'm a father. I got 2 boys. You got 2 boys. A lot of people out there listening, they're parenting, like they're doing the best they can because the kids aren't at school, okay? I use this expression all the time at home. Don't talk about it, be about it. Don't just tell me you're going to do better. Actually do better. That's where I am with Houston. That's where I am with Tennessee as well, but we'll get to them a little bit later.
Okay.
All right, last storyline for me, Norlander.
Yeah.
The coaching stuff. Again, it's obvious, but like Tony Bennett checking out in preseason, Jim Larrañaga mid-season. What's that? What are you laughing at? My pronunciation of Larrañaga?
By the way, the thing that I didn't finish on the travel story, missing the LaGuardia flight, we never met up. That was the same. I wound up traveling the same.
You ended up driving up to Charlottesville,
Tony Bennett
right?
retired, so I never got to do the RJ Davis stuff because I pivoted and I went and I drove to Charlottesville and did the whole Tony Bennett stuff. Larrañaga is not how you say his name.
Jim Larrañaga.
There we go.
Whatever.
How about Jim Larrañaga opting to say I'm out the day after Christmas? I mean, not to bring you too much into my world here because the news never stops for anyone, but December 25th hits, cool. December 26th, we always go to my sister-in-law's house to see her, my brother-in-law, their daughter, our niece, bring our boys over and do day after Christmas stuff with them. And they usually have some other members of the family that'll go over there. So, we got a whole process. And I'm like 7 minutes from walking out the door. And then Larrañaga stuff comes out. And they hadn't even, I guess, announced it at that point. They had not played a game in a number of days. Do what you want to do when you want to do it. But I'm like, come on, man. We couldn't have done that on the 27th, or you couldn't have told us on the 23rd. Like, because he had decided that they got beat down. They took a bad loss on like the Saturday. And then this didn't come out until like the Thursday, or I guess it was Friday, maybe. The timing was not ideal.
You ruined Norlander's Boxing Day. That's what it sounds like to me.
I wind up going to my in-laws, and we got some board games in. We had some good time. We had some cookie decorating contests, but for a good like 75 minutes while I'm over there, while I arrive, I'm like, sorry, I gotta go peel away to the guest bedroom.
I gotta go
fire up the lapper and take care of it.
News. That's tough. Well, here's the thing about the coaching stuff, though. It doesn't stop there. Like, yes, those guys are no longer coaching, but like Mick Cronin's been in the news lately with
he has.
UCLA.
I just saw Mick 3 days ago.
Okay, well, you can expand on that. I live in Winston-Salem. Obviously, Hubert Davis and North Carolina are right down the road. Folks are not happy about that situation in Chapel Hill. And
they can calm down a little bit. North Carolina is getting itself in order, and it's won 4 or 5 of its past 6.
Okay,
Wolves down, beat NC State over the weekend.
Barely.
Tight game, closer than they'd want, but it was on the road.
I get it. I'm just telling you, like this reared its head for me. You were talking about like me being in football world, okay? A couple weeks ago when the whole Bill Belichick thing came down the pipe, it was like, listen, not only are we doing this, which again I've not fully wrapped my head around. I don't think that goes very well for anybody other than the Belichick family.
And in North Carolina, I'm getting a lot of that from people. Like they don't.
But it was like, oh, and by the way, we're also, we're gonna kind of dog ear some of this money in this other bin so that we can get Hubert Davis out of here and reboot the basketball program as well. Because people talk about the NIL package and how it's just not where it needs to be in Chapel Hill. I can't speak to any of that. I have no idea, but that's the word. That's the scuttlebutt.
Yeah, I had a story on that a few weeks back for CBS. Hubert Davis isn't going to part ways from North Carolina in 2025. That's not going to happen. They're too good. They're going to make the tournament. Even if they miss the tournament, there wouldn't be a coaching change. But there has been a lot of frustration over the fact that we don't need to burrow too deep into this. We'll have probably other opportunities later this season to talk about it. But in short, there are some really, really rich people attached to North Carolina's athletic department, boosters, donors, all that stuff. No people on the board there. And that half dozen, 6, 7, 8 group of people have been dedicating a lot of their money and time and motivations to football and not basketball in a way that doesn't correspond with the overwhelming majority of the fans and the not super rich people that would like to continue to make sure that North Carolina can be the best basketball program in the country.
Right.
So that has led to some frustrations, and the gap is only going to widen here. And so for a lot of people in Greater Chapel Hill, it is still not a welcome change of pace. This idea that football in college runs a lot at a lot of places, but that's not how we do it here. And for right now, it certainly is. It's heading that way with Belichick, so that'll be an interesting thing to track over the next year.
Which, by the way, we don't need to do this because we've got the next couple months. But to your point about football running the show, take a peek at like the Big Ten, ACC, SEC conference tournament brackets. I'm not saying you need to familiarize yourself with them over the next couple of months, but just know that like if you're the 17th or 18th ranked team in the ACC or the Big Ten, you're not going.
Yeah, which is the right decision, by the way. I'm not this believer that like every team should get to go and experience playing in your conference tournament, man. If you're the 17th or 18th team, first of all, it's friends and family only. Okay, so we can
stay home.
Yeah, it's a 15-team invitation. You're still, if you finish 15th, you're still getting to go to this thing. I believe it's 15, maybe it's 14. But credit to those leagues. I don't think. Like the Big 12 and SEC have 16 teams, and everybody goes
in the SEC. It's
and I know you love a Big 12 bracket format and bracket printout. I know that much.
I would think that by now Brett Yormark, who's a smart guy by all accounts, has figured out that the all black conference tournament bracket PDF that needs to be addressed. Maybe you can text
decide whether I know some folks at the Big 12. Like I think I can actually
fix it.
Make some calls and fix. I'm not even kidding. Like I think I can actually get a bug in a lot of people's ear to be like, "Hey, you can't do this anymore." But part of me wants to not do that, so you continue to just blow through the company budget on toner. Like
just wearing out the black toner here at the office. I mean, I've got my own. Like it's a shame. It's tragic. By the way, I sent you a picture. Of course, it got no response, like most of my texts do during college basketball season. I sent you a photo of the Bad Boy Gasparilla Battle for Atlantis, or I'm combining Bad Boy Gasparilla Bowl for Battle for Atlantis. Anyway, their bracket was like these circles. It was like these little bubbles.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. First of all, you send me a picture of a bracket that's horizontal and a vertical photo. That's why you're not
man. I'm old man Prince Internet.
This is bad. Yeah,
sorry.
I gotta tilt my head like this.
I sent you a picture of the Joel. I was inside the Joel with no context for a Goose concert. Okay, just no context whatsoever.
No, you didn't send me a picture
of the Joel.
Oh yeah, you did. Here it is. Oh yeah. Oh wait, no. Yeah, you did. I guess
no response. I sent you a text
about. Well, first of all, you sent me a picture of
coming to Winston-Salem. No response. I mean, we'll get to now spinning a little bit later in the show, but you're just not a great communicator, man.
That's not true. I'm a really good communicator. I just like you drop a little note. I'll hit you back. We've had some contact.
Okay, very good.
Also, you want to come in. Look at the magic that's happening right now. You want to come in fresh to this pod, okay? You inform me, I inform you. We catch up on each other. There's an energy that you can't replicate if you're constantly responding to every single text message. I'm actually pretty good. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little hit or miss. Pretty good at, if you text me, I'll get back to you relatively quickly. There are folks in my everyday life, folks I've known for a long time, friends of 10, 15, 20 years, and coaches that are just abysmal. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person. I vow not to be that person.
I mean, I have been the source for multiple breaking news pieces, mostly during COVID times, but still you'd think that you'd like treat your sources with a little bit, better, like timing in the response to text messages. Okay, anyway,
the next time you send me a picture of a bracket, I'll think of something witty to retort with. All right.
Very good. Very good. You saw, I mentioned the Mick Cronin thing. You were in College Park. UCLA lost to Maryland over the weekend. Let's get into the storylines from recent college hoops because there's a lot to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of just summarize what's going on with Cronin? Like, is he in an okay place? Like, is he doing this to try to like get the locker room's attention so that they'll play harder? Or is this like another one of these situations where, like, has he lost the locker room? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with UCLA? They're a good team. They're in the top 20. But the Cronin bites, I mean, that made the rounds. Like, even people who don't follow college basketball were like, what's this guy's problem? Like, what's going on? Is this how you talk to kids?
Yeah, it wasn't a good week in public relations for Mick Cronin. I don't think he's lost the locker room. I talked with one of the assistants at UCLA prior to the game, and essentially what the assistant told me was, these guys respond extremely well to how Mick's running the program, and like they're all really good players, really good kids, and so that basically Cronin went on a rant and called his team delusional. Said he basically said, I'm the only one worth a damn that's a part of this program right now, and why do I even need to do this anymore?
I got 500 wins. Why do I even need to be here?
You would think I'm coaching the Lakers, was his quote, which is there was some delusional stuff overall with Cronin there. But then he goes to Maryland Friday night, gets thrown out of the game. He wanted to get thrown out of the game. He hated the whistle. He thought the officiating was terrible. He thinks the officiating against UCLA in Big Ten games has been terrible so far. He said, I don't have the quote up in front of me, but he basically said, like, we're the newcomer, we're the new guys, us, Oregon, USC, Washington, because the Pac-12 schools now in the Big Ten. But all of this is coming at a time also when, the program, Cronin, his assistants, the people in the athletic department, even a few people on the team, they know people affected by the wildfires, and one thing doesn't excuse the other, because I agree with some, not all, but some of the criticism of Cronin. But at least, and I wrote a column on it Friday night into Saturday morning. I at least will give him a little bit, even though he's not necessarily seeking grace and not certainly comporting himself with grace. I give him a little bit of a pass in the here and now, because dude, he's on the other side of the country. He's on like this 5-6 day road trip because,
Yeah, they stay out east. Yeah, they don't
stay out east because they played Maryland. They play, as we speak right now, it's Monday. They play in Piscataway tonight. They play a Rutgers team that's been just a massive letdown.
Yeah, you wrote about that. Those guys have 2 top 5 NBA picks, and they're struggling.
Yeah, I wrote about that last week. There's never been a team with 2 top 5 NBA picks, which Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper should wind up being regardless of how the season goes. There's never been a team with 2 top 5 picks that missed the tournament, and Rutgers is going to be the first. So UCLA plays Rutgers on Monday night, and, there's this feeling of high anxiety and helplessness when you're on the other side of the country, and these fires are still raging, and I think that is affecting Cronin on some level as well. When they played Michigan last Tuesday, that's when the fires really started to ramp up. And for a quick half minute, there was like, wonder if they should not play that UCLA Michigan game. They ultimately decided to play it, obviously at Pauley Pavilion. And so I think as all of that was happening, those stresses were kind of piling on. But to the people that want to go after Cronin and how it's not like how he's behaving now is different from how he is acted in the past. He is a really, really good coach who has a short fuse, who can look extremely angry, and because he's shorter in stature, like he can get like this, fired up look about him that can cause people to point and laugh. I get all that, and then you hear him talk, and he doesn't BS at all, and we'll see if UCLA can turn this thing, because it actually started pretty well through the first 7 weeks of the season, and now it's lost 4 of 5, and it's standing in the sport is slipping a bit here. But I if he's gonna if we check in mid-February and this is still going on, then I think we really have the conversation of like, should this guy be coaching this team? Should this guy be coaching? Does he want to be coaching? Because a lot of what he's saying publicly is just can be so demonstrative that it would lead you to believe otherwise. But yeah, that's an ongoing story, and that was Friday night. Over the weekend, I think the biggest development was Flagg. So let's get into Cooper Flagg here.
Yeah, I mean, no ACC freshman has ever scored as many points as Cooper Flagg did Saturday. 42.
Yes.
Against Notre Dame, who's bad, but still 42 points on 14 field goal attempts, Norlander.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty efficient day at the office.
extremely efficient. Third highest scoring game by a Duke player ever. Flagg had a huge week. He had the dunk against Pitt, which was a huge moment.
Yes.
His biggest play of the season, and then that's followed up immediately by the performance against Notre Dame, which I did not see in real time because I drove down to Maryland Friday late morning, afternoon, cover the game, and then I had UConn and Georgetown won their previous two games. I may have stayed to cover that, but they were both coming off of losses, and frankly, I felt like UConn was going to run them. That's exactly what they did, and I wanted to get back, and I had to be on HQ Saturday night. So the point is,
better though. Georgetown's better.
They're better, but let's give it a little bit here. They're getting there. The point is this: I was like, all right, I got to get on the road, so I missed. I was driving back home, Maryland to Connecticut. By the way, incredible job both ways. Did not hit traffic once either way. Leave Friday from Connecticut at 11:15, get into College Park, by 4:05, dodged it all. Saturday morning, get out of there, same exact deal, like left at about 11, drove up, missed any and all traffic. It was, I couldn't believe it. I was convinced one of the ways I was going to hit at least, get set back at least an hour. Didn't happen. Thrilled. Had to pass.
Some real rad dad strength right there.
Rad dad. I mean, how can you not appreciate like what is, a 4-hour, 45-minute trip being that? Actually, I think coming back, I got back in like no stops, by the way, like 4 hours, 35 minutes. Like, come on now. Come on. How are you wired like, and we'll get the flag. Don't worry. If to me, if a driving trip is 5 flat or less, it's a straight shot. Unless nature calls and I have to stop and use the bathroom, it's a straight shot.
Unless you got to stop and charge your Tesla or something. Yeah.
That's not how
we're not there yet either.
I don't ride like that literally, but that's rad dad stuff. 5 or less, it's a straight shot. Now, if I'm going somewhere with my kids and my wife, that gets dropped to like 3:15. I might be able to push 3:30. But like if it's a 4-hour trip, my wife is going to say we got to stop somewhere, which is unfortunate. So when it's myself, that's what, boom, A to B, let's go, no stops.
Yeah,
you agree?
I'm also not opposed to carrying a 32-ounce empty Gatorade bottle if the opportunity presents itself.
I won't go that far.
We've all been there. Listen, guys, you're listening to the show. We've all been there. Okay, we've all used the empty Quick Trip cup when we're in the car by ourselves, or heck it, if the kids are in the back seat and the wife's there, and you're just like, listen, we're gonna keep going. Give me the cup. Give me the cup. Gosh.
All right, Flagg, averaging 19.1 points, 8.3 rebounds, 3.9 assists.
He's the truth.
1.6 steals, 1.3 blocks. He leads Duke in all 5 categories. He's been outstanding this season. He's consistently been really, really good. But for the first 6 weeks, he was good and productive. But he'd have these kind of like casual games where he'd go for 19 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, and he was good. But it would be kind of like, okay. And Duke won. Interesting. He had a couple of gaffes in their 2 losses, late game plays where he had turnovers and didn't produce there, but he is the best freshman in the country. And because Duke won, he put up 42. He did it in hyper efficient style and fashion, had a couple of big time dunks in that as well. In that coincided with Auburn and its star big Janai Broome, who was 48 hours ago the National Player of the Year frontrunner. Broome is now down with an ankle injury. I spoke with the source on Sunday. The situation here is this. It's a lower left ankle injury, not an upper, which is good. So the timeline to return is reduced. He will not play for at least the next 2 games. It's possible he won't even play for the next 4 games, but we don't know his timeline for return, how long it takes that ankle to heal, the rehab involved. They will not rush him back, which is, I think that's the right move. You want to have Janai Broome as healthy as possible by mid-February and beyond so that you can push in the SEC to win the league and get a 1 seed and all of that. In his absence, you will have Chaney Johnson, a 6'7" senior, start. He's been a quality player. He's not on the level of Broome, obviously, but Auburn has some depth to it. The Tigers are 15-1. It's not yet official, but about 3 hours from now, from when we're taping, Auburn will move to number 1 in the AP Top 25 because Tennessee got boat raced by Florida by 30 last week, so they're going to drop from the number 1 ranking. And in doing so, Auburn will become number 1 for only the 4th time in program history during a 3-week stretch in 2022. That was the Jabari Smith team. Auburn held the number 1 ranking. So because Broome is out and because Flagg has been tremendous, I think that Flagg has nudged past Broome in the National Player of the Year race. Right now, it's a 2-player race. It could become, a 3 or 4-player race. We'll see. Cam Jones at Marquette, I think, has an outside chance to really get in there as well. But right now, it's Flagg and then Broome 1-2 for National Player of the Year. Until Saturday morning, it was basically Broome since the second week of the season. Hopefully, he can get good. He can get strong because Auburn still rates as the number 1 team in college basketball. At KenPom right now, it's Auburn 1, Duke 2, Houston 3, Iowa State 4. Florida 5. Iowa State got a nice win on the road against Texas Tech over the weekend in overtime, a game that Texas Tech should have won. And I missed most of that game, but I pulled in just as regulation was ending and then caught overtime here in the house. But Iowa State's doing a good job as well under TJ Otzelberger, another team that I saw in Maui that played pretty well. But Flagg's big game and Broome's injury were probably the 2 biggest results of the weekend. And then I'd say that the third one, and I want your thoughts, your takes on, because I don't think maybe we talked about it once in April after it happened. Maybe, yeah, we must, because we did a season wrap show. I just don't remember the context of our conversation. Hartzell, Arkansas loses at home to Florida. Arkansas is now sitting in a spot where it's 0-3 in the league, 11-5 overall, and projected to go 18-13 in the overall heading into the SEC tournament. That would be a bubble team at best. Your thoughts on Calipari, Arkansas? Did you like the hire when it happened? Where do you land with things now? They've lost 3 in a row, and now they're staring at 2 road games against LSU and Mizzou next.
I want to preface this with just a statement on how I feel about Arkansas as a college town, Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas. I've been there. It's incredible. Okay.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I think it's good. I wouldn't define. I went there for the first time. Call it 14 months ago.
Okay.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I would not define it as an incredible college.
Here's why I think it's incredible. Okay. I'm not there for the bar scene. Okay. I'm there for
you are
the geography, the topography. If you want to go hang out in the Ozarks, if you want to go to the lake, if you want to go to the woods, okay, Northwest Arkansas, it's not an easy place to get to, man.
It's not. They're tucked away out there.
Now, there's also no pro sports teams, and Arkansas fans and players will talk about just the Arkansas fan, Razorback Nation. Those folks are built different, okay? They're just built different. I've been to a football game there. I haven't actually been to Bud Walton Arena. I've been outside of it. It looks like a shopping mall. It's gigantic.
It's big. It's a good building. It's older, but it's a good building. I really enjoyed my time there. I saw the Arkansas win against Duke last season. Arkansas went on to not even make the tournament, leading to Musk getting the hell out of there.
Yes.
And meantime, Duke got all the way to the Elite Eight and yada yada. But
they are a proud basketball fan base. Yes,
of course.
They love their baseball, they love their football, but Nolan Richardson, Arkansas with Bill Clinton cheering from the box, this is I don't want to say it's a basketball school because there's people who would push back at that, but
no, it is. That's the thing.
Proud basketball.
They can push back on it, but Arkansas is a basketball school. They have a really good baseball team. They've had some. I think they've had some really good track athletes over the years. And,
really good.
They're a basketball school.
Okay, so you make the splashy move. You bring Cal into town, and he wins the press conference, and he's schmoozing and he's charming, right? And then the season starts, and you've seen the clips where he's yeah, we didn't really do a shoot around, we just didn't do a shoot around at Tennessee to play the number 1 team in the country. Okay, man, the problem with Arkansas, it's a double-edged sword. They care, they're very passionate, they call the hogs, they're just wired differently, okay? Conversely, they dissect all of this stuff. They care, not necessarily more than Big East fan cares or more than Tobacco Road fan cares, but This is all they have, man. And so what you're getting is like, I mean, you're not getting, I don't know, Norlander, like you cover the sport nationally. You talk to other coaches. You talk to athletic directors. You talk to assistant coaches. Like for me, my perspective of Cal is like, he doesn't have the energy and enthusiasm for the sport. And when I see some of these other coaches, like whether it's like who's the guy at Michigan who just came over from FAU? I'm blanking on his name.
You're an absolute gem for this, by the way. It's Dusty May.
Dusty May. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. Like I just see some of these younger coaches and like you see the enthusiasm. You see what Mark Pope's doing in Lexington, and it's like
stark contrast.
He's like 180, man. Like it's totally different. And so I think this is like Arkansas fan, like this is what you paid for, man. Like you're getting the Cal experience. And like you said, 18-13 projected. No, that's like 7 or 8 wins less than they thought they were going to have. Like that's not going to cut it. So we'll see, man. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. We got 2 months till we go to Nashville, but if they're like a 9 or a 10 seed in the SEC tournament, especially this year's SEC tournament, where you've got like Ole Miss and A&M, and we've mentioned Auburn and Tennessee and Florida, Kentucky, Georgia. Like if Arkansas is the 9th or 10th best team in that league, yeah, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, anyone that does the double dip with yours truly over here, first of all, I appreciate you. If you're an Eye on College Basketball listener and you dive into this as well, sincere thanks for all of that. But if you listen to the Sunday show, the projected record was 17-14, not 18-13. It looks like the overnight refreshes at Ken Palm now have Arkansas winning its final regular season game against Mississippi State by 1, whereas opposed to, I believe that was a projected
Mississippi
1 point
State.
loss.
That's another team that's just
really
out
good.
there lurking. That's really good.
Well, let's look at the SEC right now, because the SEC's dominance has been, in my opinion, the biggest story in the sport so far this season. We'll see if it doesn't remain that, it will be a top 3 story. And I might have something. I'll have something on the SEC, generally speaking, in its tournament teams and all that good stuff. I think I'll have it in this week's court report. If not, it will be in next week's. But I think I'm going to try and squeeze it in for this week. Right now, here are the teams that are locks for the tournament: Auburn, Bama, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee. So those 5. Texas A&M is 6. That's a lock. Mississippi State's a lock. That's 7. Other than, I'd say 7 or first of all, have 7 locks on January 13th is abnormal behavior. So they've got 7 locks, and then you've got Mississippi 8 is pretty damn close. If you want to put them there, I won't fight you. Georgia 9 is in there. I'd say Missouri, put them at 10.
Welcome back, Missouri.
I know.
Welcome back.
This is crazy. I'd put Missouri at 10.
Texas.
I really might
Oklahoma?
No, I know we're getting there. I'd go Oklahoma 11. Oklahoma hasn't won a league game yet. Oklahoma 11. And then you're going to have, like, let's say Arkansas 12. Vandy 13. Did I say Texas yet? Texas 14. They're all in the conversation. Those are 14 in the conversation. South Carolina's not going to go. They're the only, I think, bad team in the SEC, and they're not even. It's all bad is relative. They almost beat Auburn over the weekend, but Auburn didn't have room down the stretch.
Right.
And then LSU is South Carolina's 10-6. LSU is 11-5. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, LSU, and South Carolina don't have a league win as we record here on Monday morning. Bama, Auburn, and Mississippi are the undefeated teams in the SEC. They're all 3-0 apiece. But the SEC is going to send 11 as a lock. It will send 11 teams to the tournament. That will match the Big East record in 2011 for the most teams. And then I said this a month ago. SEC is going to send 12, at least 12 to the tournament. It will set the record. There's a scenario in which, like, if you have, let's just say, like, let's, for the purposes of just discussion here, LSU and South Carolina, and then just say Arkansas falls off a cliff and Oklahoma completely falls on its face, and then, like, Vandy is Vandy. Like, there's a scenario in which they only send 11, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the league was insane in the non-conference. It won 88.5% of its games in non-con play, which is a record winning percentage for any conference, which with at least 10 teams in the history of the sport. So now the league will collectively go 500 through the end of the SEC tournament. And so because of that, the tide has been lifted. The boats are going to benefit because of it. And it's been astounding to see this happen. People love asking, like, why did this happen? Well, sometimes it's cosmic. You've got the right coaches and the right players, and NIL has been a factor. And it just so happened that this conference, as it expanded, was in the right spot to take advantage of this. And I don't think this will be duplicated. I think a year from now, it's entirely possible the SEC will again be the best league in the country, but it won't be this good. This is unprecedented territory. And it just so happens to be going on in the first year of widespread super conferences, with the exception of the Big East. The other four, the autonomy four and football, all have a 16 to 18 schools. The Big East has 11, but the Big East obviously still is a power conference as well. And the SEC is taking advantage of it. I would say that Bama, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and that's 5 from one league, but those 5 all are national title contenders.
Wow.
I don't put Texas A&M and I don't put Ole Miss in there. I don't put Georgia's 14-2. They've done a good job. I don't put them in there. But 5 teams from one league, I think, are true national title contenders. And I think it's very possible that I say that now on January 13th. I know how you feel about the old title contender combo. I think that those 5 now will still be those 5 on March 13th. I think they're built for it. They're going to take some losses, but they all are extremely good, well-rounded teams, very well coached, and the SEC is going to have a great shot to win a national championship. And I think that, Auburn is probably, if Broom is healthy, the best team in the league. But we'll see if that flips. If they don't have him for 4 games, they take on a couple of losses here, that might wind up mattering in the league race when it comes to seeding. But yeah, it's been fascinating to watch and track this league.
So just to clarify, though, this isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't an aberration that the SEC is having this type of year. You think we might need to get used to this in terms of maybe not the level of non-conference wins and obviously what they just rolled through in November and December as a league, but in terms of being a league that puts a dozen teams in the dance, you think this might be the new norm?
No, I will not be the new norm. I think, let's say they put a dozen in, which is what I'm going with 12. I wouldn't say it's likely they put 12 in again in the next decade. They could have seasons when they put in 10, maybe they match 11. Again, with conferences with more teams, you're going to have the opportunity for more bids. Because in addition to this, and we don't have to get too sidetracked here, but like non-conference scheduling doesn't benefit. It's been worse for mid-majors in the past 2 years than it's ever been. And so the game is rigged to that extent. And so it's only going to benefit these power conferences in many ways, although there's new selection metrics in there, and we'll save that conversation for at least February. But there is actually hope that if you're a mid-major and you perform well against your schedule, the likes of wins against bubble, wins above bubble, and strength of record continuing to be involved there, you might have a better chance with the committee. So I've got hope there. But when it comes to outright scheduling and non-conference play, if you're a top 10 to 12 mid-major team, you're just not going to get most top 50, top 60 schools in the high majors to schedule you. And so what that's going to lead to is more and more power conference teams getting the data on their side and leading to the SEC or the Big 12 or the Big 10 to getting that 9th team or that 10th team into the tournament, when otherwise in years past that might not have been the case. But the SEC is absolutely for real. I know you want a fraud watch. I can't even identify Arkansas as fraud watch because I think because it's been losing the way it has, that's the candidate. The one that I would give you is Oklahoma. I detailed this last week in the court report for CBSSports.com. Every January we get 1, 2, or 3 teams that are ranked in the AP top 25, and then you check on their resume, you check on their statistical profile, you check on their predictive metrics, and there usually are a few teams that the humans are putting in high regard, but the computers do not. And a year ago, it was Kansas, which was number 3 in the AP poll, and no metric had it better than like 13th at that point, which is a pretty sizable gap. Lo and behold, the predictive wound up being correct, and Kansas had its worst season ever under Bill Self. Oklahoma which I identified when it was 13-1. I put it on the list in addition to Oregon and Memphis. We'll see if those two pan out. But Oklahoma has since lost 2 more games. It's now 13-3, and it's a terrible defensive rebounding team. Its wins in non-conference came against a Providence team at the time that we thought would be okay, maybe a tournament team. We know that's nowhere near the case now. It beat Arizona on a neutral, which Arizona wasn't good then. Arizona's actually responded well. That might be a good thing for Oklahoma. And Louisville at the time wasn't good. Now Louisville has responded well. That's a good one. They've also defeated Michigan. They've done well enough in their non-conference.
It's at that game.
You were at that game. You've been to a couple games. You were at that one.
Went off. I sent you a picture of Vlad the Impaler.
That's right. Vlad the Impaler.
That guy's good, man. I know he was good at FAU too, but he's silky for a guy that big. He's got some moves.
He is. That is correct. As I mentioned earlier on the show, I should have something on the Wolverine side of this week. But Oklahoma's just got some interior presence issues, and they are a team that has a good record in the SEC. Started off 13-0 as one of the 3 final undefeated teams. I'm not saying they won't make the tournament. I think they will, but I think we're going to get to March and see them not on the 3 or 4 line as you know, Sooners fans would have been hoping for by New Year's Day, but instead they could very well slip to like the 9, 10, 11 range overall. So, and also they've got a freshman named Jeremiah Fierce who has been really, really good on offense. He is a non-factor on defense. Hopefully he can step up his defensive play. Oklahoma certainly a much better offensive team than defensive team. So I know you were looking for a fraud watch in the league.
Yes.
We know what Arkansas is.
Find the fraud. I love to play that game.
Find the fraud.
Time of the year.
I would give you, some folks might be like Mizzou, Georgia. I'd give you Oklahoma, and I gave you Oklahoma when it was 13-1, and now it's sitting there at 13-3.
Dude, the Asa Newell kid for Georgia, he's like a projected lottery pick.
Yeah, he will go in the lottery. I think he should go in the top 10. Stretchy forward, impressive dude. I actually got to talk to him in the summer of 23.
Great hair.
Great hair.
The vibe check is pretty high with Asa
He was
Newell.
a very important recruit for Georgia, and I'm forgetting it now. He has a family member that went to Georgia, I believe, which isn't the reason that he went, but like that was one of the ends that Georgia had. And Mike White's team off to its best start in 23 years. I think it should be ranked when the polls refresh today. We'll see if it is. Its only losses are against Marquette on a neutral floor, and then they got beat at Ole Miss all of 9-10 days ago. But otherwise, they've done well for themselves. Big game for the Bulldogs at Tennessee on Wednesday. That's a tough assignment. They actually are at Tennessee on Wednesday, and then they host Auburn without Jani Broome this Saturday before going to Arkansas, to Florida. So Georgia's 14-2 right now.
Meat grinder. Let's go.
Every team in the SEC is going to have these 4 or 5 game stretches where it's like you got to play nothing but ranked teams, or 3 or 4 on the road against teams that are in the AP top 25. So Georgia's 14-2. Very well could be 15-3 in the blink of an eye. But a nice start for Mike White's team. I think they're going to make the tournament. And that has not been the case. If you're curious, Georgia last made the tournament in 2015. It's going to be a 10-year drought that gets snapped this season.
Wow. Okay. That was who was the guy? Who was at Cal? Is he still at Cal? Who was the coach at Georgia when they made it in 15?
Mark Fox. No.
Mark Fox.
Mark Fox actually had Pope on his staff earlier in his tenure, but yes.
Tough.
Not Mark Fox.
Tough.
Who's now with Pope at Kentucky.
Okay, very good. Yeah, you wanted to talk about the viral moment from the weekend with Kentucky going with their head coach. You went into the
well, that was cool. If you didn't see it, I've actually since closed the tweet. I wanted to give credit to the person who put it out
still on
there.
Twitter? I thought you were a Blue Sky guy now. Blue Sky guy?
First of all, I've always been both. But yes, I'm
active in the Blue Sky community.
Very active.
Matt Norlander.
Very active. Yeah. Find me on Blue Sky. It's a good vibe over there. Although, kind of predictably, like there was this in November, there was like this wave, like a big wave. A lot of sports folks headed on over to Blue Sky to split their time, and the habits have drifted back for many of them to Twitter, which is fine. Do what you got. I got nothing. I'm still posting on Twitter, but like the actual user experience, the interface of Blue Sky is unquestionably superior. So I I tend to post more over there than I do on Twitter, but I am still active on both. But if you are on Blue Sky and haven't found me, feel free. I drop plenty of college hoops commentary, music commentary, get some scoops, some nuggets in there that I don't necessarily always bring to Twitter as well. So there's a lot
Blue
of
Sky exclusive nuggets. There you go.
Why not? Give the people a little carrot. But Mark Pope, and this went viral on Twitter, they win at Mississippi State on Saturday. And
at the hump. Not easy to do.
At
you
the
don't
hump.
just stroll into that place.
They drop, 95 points well, I mean, are we going to sometimes I feel like that consistently gets overstated. I'm not saying it's easy to go on the road and win. I'm not saying that.
It's never easy.
It feels like, collectively announcers have 73 places that are like, it's so hard to win in this place. Like, this is one of the hardest. This is one of the, when this place is going, it's one of the best places in all of college basketball. Well, there can't be 39 of those places. Okay.
Sure there can. Listen, because when the place is rocking, it's not 5-on-5 anymore. Okay. It's 5-on-8. That's what you fail to realize. All of a sudden, the officials are like, yeah, this is kind of fun. All I got to do is blow my whistle and this place erupts. Don't think that doesn't happen, man. Definitely happens. It's tough on the road.
Anyway. I didn't say it didn't happen. I'm just telling you that the hump is not one of the 20 toughest places to play in college basketball.
I didn't say it was an elite college basketball venue. I just said you don't just stroll in there, okay? You got to be on your game. That's all I'm saying.
Kentucky was on its game. It won 95-90 against one of the better defensive teams in the country. 95 points. It was 50% from the field from beyond the arc. Ridiculous.
Put up 95 on the dentist, Norlander. Doesn't just happen. Okay.
16 out of 32 from 3-point range for Kentucky. Just outrageous. Kentucky it's amazing how different this team is to watch play, cover in general, moving on from the Cal era.
They're having fun.
It was just overdue and it was needed. After the game, somehow, I don't know how, but word got to Mark Pope that there was a Kentucky fan that was still, lingering up on the second level, Kentucky fan who's in a wheelchair. And so, Pope does his post-game radio. He does his post-game media, checks in on his folks. So this is, got to figure it's probably anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes after. And teams are typically trying to get out of there, fly home, get home. I don't know if Kentucky was staying overnight in Starkville. I got to believe that was not the case. Got to believe they took a late night bird. But Pope made sure that he went up there and gave the fan a hug, sat with him for 5 minutes and talked about whatever they talked about. And it was just a really cool moment. And Pope has had a number of these instances where he's had some fan interactions after games, gone into the stands. And
let's face it, Cal would never. Most
would never. And there's nothing wrong with not doing it. But this Pope getting the job, and, when Bennett retired, he said, it's time for me to give it back because it was never mine to begin with. This is the credo that Mark Pope is abiding by holding this Kentucky head coaching position. And whether he kills it and 2 years from now he's a super hot NBA candidate and has a chance there, or if he holds this job for the next 20 years, I haven't asked Mark this directly, but I guarantee you if I did, he'd say, this is not mine. I am just holding this for the next person. It's an honor to have this position to begin with. And you see these examples of him going and talking to fans, particularly on the road. And you almost never see it. It is, I'm not going to call it refreshing because it's not refreshing. It's different and it's really cool to see.
Right.
And it's why Pope is beloved. Now, anytime can turn on any coach in any situation, just about. But barring outright disaster, Pope and the energy and what he's done for this fan base, particularly in year one. I mean, he's an alum there. He won that 96 team is one of the all-time teams in the history of the sport. He's in a great spot, and it's you remind me of this conversation if we're talking in 3 years, 5 years about Kentucky being a bad place and fans being ticked off and ready to move on from Pope, because it's hard to imagine how it would get to a point where they would be as angry with him as they were with Cal. They might be, maybe we look up in 5 years and they're just kind of whatever. I don't see that happening, but I don't think it'll ever get to a toxic place. And with Cal, it absolutely got toxic. Let's quickly talk ACC, Hartzell. Let's go to your part of the country here.
Yes.
Duke
ACC
is the only
having a down year, to say the least.
It's had some down years, and those down years have been salvaged by the fact that they keep getting teams into the Final Four to make up for a little bit.
Right.
Only one ranked team in the country, Duke.
That's crazy, by the way.
It's still, I'm looking at the results here.
Pitt
I don't think maybe Louisville breaks through on Monday. Again, the folks in taking this pod after the AP rankings have come out, we don't have that yet. Louisville has won 5 in a row. It's 12-5 overall, 5-1 in the league. I don't think Louisville will crack in this week. North Carolina's won 3 in a row. It's UNC. I guess it's possible. Clemson won't get there. Pitt just lost. It was knocking on the door. I think we'll still have only one ACC team ranked this week. Duke has a chance to run the table in the league. I don't think that's going to happen. I'll say KenPom projects Duke to go 19-1. I'll say it's 18-2. I think it gets picked off twice, and there's no shame in that whatsoever. But
they got to come to the Joel next week, man. You know what happened the last time they came to the Joel?
Kyle Filipowski almost lost his life.
It almost had to get amputated after the game. It's crazy. And then the guy was dunking a couple days later. But
I know. Man, that was a thing. I did at the end of I always do a top stories in college basketball at the end of at the end of the season, but the end of the year. So it takes a lot from the season before, a little bit of off-season stuff, and then and 2 or 3 headlines from the start of the season. And I did the 24 biggest stories of 2024, and like 22 on that list was the Kyle Filipowski Wake Forest court storm, because for a good 48 hours, that was a blazing hot topic. And then lo and behold, he didn't wind up missing a game. So.
Crazy how that works.
Remember, and it was like, we've got to ban court storming, and then they didn't ban court storming.
You know what the saddest
every year we do this.
You know what the saddest scene in the ACC is, in my opinion?
There's a lot of sad scenes, but I got it. Boston College on a Saturday afternoon tip is near the top of the list.
Have you seen what the now JMA Wireless Dome looks like for a Cuse game?
I haven't, but it's
because of the way that stadium is constructed, and the
way they have to play the games there.
They have to, right? So there's no, like, the arena, like the seating doesn't go up, okay? Because it's a basket, like it goes out.
It's just more out.
And so you just see just empty rows, just not like here or there. I mean Syracuse is struggling, obviously, but like. That's a humongous venue. It's like the new Rose Bowl of college basketball.
It's the biggest venue in the sport.
Get the tarps out.
They're not going to bust out the tarps, but yeah, it was Cuse won 2 in a row. Don't let them get hot. Now sitting at 8-8 after a win at the aforementioned Boston College. They won an afternoon tip there.
That's a place you do stroll into, Conti Forum.
You do. Chances are, if it's a forum instead of an arena or an indoor stadium or a field house,
you're like, there's 79 places you stroll into. Conti ain't one of them, but continue.
ACC, man. This is Miami is 4-12. Larinaga pulled the ripcord, got the hell out of there. Miami 4-12, man. They're 4-12. They're the worst team in the ACC. It's them and Boston College. Boston College is no good. Virginia, Cal is 1-4 in the league. Notre Dame is 7-9 overall. Georgia Tech's 8-9. Virginia Tech 7-9. Syracuse just got to 500. It's 8-8. NC State lost to UNC over the weekend. It's 9-7. You're gonna NC State fans.
Raleigh hot seat.
Soak no shot. Soak everything in with that Final Four run, and just understand that it's going to be years before you feel that kind of, glee. Again, it just is. And I think NC State fans realize that they're like, this is unbelievable, and we're probably going to suck again next season.
Leonard Hamilton's being sued by former players. That's
correct.
A good one.
Yep. Florida State's 11-5. They're outside the top 60 in KenPom. They're no good. Stanford's 11-5. They're doing all right in year one under Kyle Smith. Not big expectations there. SMU fraud watch. I identified that 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
SMU is 12-4. It's a healthy record, but it had opportunities against Duke and North Carolina. It got smoked. It took care of Georgia Tech over the weekend, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, who else?
And then you've got your Duke's a legit team. Clemson's good. Louisville's got a chance to be good. Wake Forest, I refuse to give up hope on. Pitt's okay. And then UNC. See, the problem is 12 as of 5 days ago. I checked. I don't have it up in front of me, but like 12 of the 18 teams, 2/3 of the league in the ACC, were 73rd or worse in the net. That is atrocious. I don't even realize how the ACC isn't worse than 5th in the country in power ranking. But that's where it sits. It's the worst of the 5 high major leagues in the nation. It's close. I'll tell you this. The gap between the Big East at 4 and the ACC at 5 is much bigger than the gap between the ACC and the Mountain West at 6, and then the ACC and the WCC at 7. It's a bad year for the ACC. it'll get 4 teams into the tournament. 5's not impossible, but 4 out of 18 teams is atrocious, and not good. And the question of like, is a down ACC going to affect Duke's chances at winning a title? Actually, I don't think so. But that'll become a talking point as we get closer to March for sure.
Plenty of seats available at whatever the place is called in downtown Charlotte. I think it's the Spectrum Center. I'm not positive. That's where the ACC tournament will be this year. It's back in its home state where it should be. All right, we got to talk tunes on the way out the door. Now spinning. We got to hustle.
Yeah.
You put out a list of the top 10 albums of 2024. It's still relatively early in the new year.
It was my 10 favorites, not the top 10. There's a difference, Hartzell.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I just kind of scrolled to the list. I didn't read the context.
By the way, I posted this on Blue Sky, where you get my Norlander music.
See? I mean, I'm in there. I mean, I'm just kind of hanging out.
Can you get active? Are you on Blue Sky, by the way?
I
think
am.
You're over there. And you got to get a little. I need some of your spicy takes more frequently.
Well, listen, the problem. Okay, I make it a goal every year just to post.
Wow, you haven't posted in a month.
A lot of the stuff that I post is just.
You have one post, and it was a month ago. Get your game up.
It's a picture of the Sickos Committee koozie.
Dude, what is this? What is this avatar I'm looking at right now? Where are you going? This is.
I was taken at a wedding. I had my grandfather's hat.
It's a boss picture. I don't deny that.
It was a vibe. I was just feasting.
You look like you're. You got season tickets, row 4, section J, Chapel Hill. That's what you're. Let's go heels. That's
fair. Yeah, that's fair. Just a little
wine and cheese.
Sipping on some good wine and some cheese from the expensive part of the store. Yeah,
yes.
Very good. So the thing with me with that list, Norlander, was that I'd never heard of 9 of those albums.
Hold on, 9 of the albums or 9 of the artists?
Artists, yeah. I mean, Krungbin was the only one that registered for me. The other 9, I don't know if you're going through like some indie phase right now or what, but I never even heard of them.
Come on. All right. Well, there are a couple more obscure ones, and some of this is, I follow a couple of music publications that, rate these records, and or you just stumble upon if you're listening on a streaming service. I'm not a Spotify guy. I do Amazon Music Unlimited because I already pay for Amazon Prime. So if you pay for Prime, then you get it's the same service. So I don't do Spotify.
What's the difference? Just that you're not on the Spotify. You're not getting your like fancy little wrapped.
Correct. I don't get a Spotify Wrapped.
Got it. Okay. But it's still got all the albums. It's still got everything you need.
It's got everything I need, and it's got it's got. I don't know. Spotify probably has it as well, but if you find a song you're listening to, they transcribe the lyrics and you can do all that kind of good stuff.
Spotify very much does that, but it's all about the algo.
Okay, there we go.
They're feeding you bands that you've never heard of.
To a certain extent, but a lot of this was, just checking out and stuff that was already on my radar. So this is alphabetical. Okay. There's a group called, I didn't know who this group was until I found this record, but Being Dead, and the name of the album is Eels. Just a different, it's like it's an indie rock sound, and it's a good eclectic album. Elbow, you've never heard of Elbow? They put out an album called Audio Vertigo. Elbow is a British-based band that's, been around more than 2 decades, much bigger across the pond than here, but they've had some misses in recent years, but their run in the 2000s was really, really good. So you've never heard of Elbow?
No.
It's too bad. They got a really.
I don't read Pitchfork either, Norland. Like I don't.
Well, I don't think that Elbow's album this year made Pitchfork's like top 100 records or anything like that. But it was a good comeback. Fontaines DC was a very it album in 2024. They put out a record named Romance. They're from Ireland, I believe. And if you're dialed into Spectrum on Sirius XM, you unquestionably Fontaines DC was getting plenty of run during the fall and winter. But that's a genuinely good album. I'll put that there. Brittany Howard put out an album called What Now? You're familiar with Brittany Howard?
No.
Dude.
Why would I be familiar with Brittany Howard?
She broke through in another way. Do you remember Alabama Shakes?
I've heard of Alabama Shakes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have heard
person for Alabama Shakes. Okay. Put out a couple of solo records. This was actually a very good solo record from Brittany Howard. Highly recommend that. Krungbin, Ala Sala. Love me some Krungbin. Loving him more and more by the month, frankly. MJ Lenderman.
They're good live.
I have yet to check them out live. See if I can get that done in 25.
They played Ala Sala. That was their first set. Just the whole album. Just in
it's
order.
A good record.
Bang.
MJ Lenderman, Manning Fireworks. This was probably the last of the top 10 that squeezed onto the list. Beating out Pearl Jam's Dark Matter for me, but a good record.
That was tough for
MJ
you.
Lenderman had the pitchforks in your rock critics and all of them. Very, very it artist in 2024. Sheer Mag has been around for a bit. Very dirty, fast, loud, alt rock, some glam in there. Good stuff. Like me some Sheer Mag. Very underrated band. They put out an album called Playing Favorites. The Smile is like 77% of Radiohead. They put out 2 records. Their album Cutout, I thought Cutouts was the clear superior one. I'd love Radiohead to reform and make another album. I don't really think that's ever going to happen again. So I just got to take what Tom York is giving us with The Smile. And then St. Vincent put out a record called All Born Screaming, which I thought was a pretty solid album as well. And then Kamasi Washington put out all of his records are very, very long, double LP length, Fearless Movement. That was, it's a great record, but 2, that's very much like put it on while I'm doing anything from research to cleaning the office or whatever. It's just a long play, but those are my 10 favorites. But also shout out to Pearl Jam put out a record. Guster put out a record, Ooh La La. It was solid, but I think it is my least favorite of Guster's discography.
Guster put out a Big Boat, huh? It happens. Listen,
it's better than Big Boat. And Big Boat is a record.
It happens. It happens, man. You show up.
Better than Big Boat for sure.
You show up to like December 29th at MSG, and you're all excited to see Fish, and you get 3 Big Boat songs, man.
Did that happen?
Happens.
I was not dialed in on the Fish sets on New Year's.
I don't know. I mean,
well, what are you doing? Like, what are you saying this if it didn't go down?
I'm assuming it did. I think there was a little Big Boat early in the run. Yes, I think some Big Boat definitely made it at MSG.
Speaking of Fish, let's get out of here on this. I remember I'm almost positive that it was not last season, the season before. By the way, I think is this year 5 for us doing this or year 6? We're up there.
I think we're up there. Yeah, 5.
I think it's
5 or 6.
It's at 5 or 6. To the OGs that have been since the start, we appreciate you.
If you know, you know. Yes.
I want to say that I brought up Goose to you on this show before you even knew who Goose was. A lot of dismissive attitude.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah.
I mean, like typical haughty jam band elitist dismissiveness.
Yep.
And lo and behold, you tell me you saw more of Goose in 2024 than Fish. What the hell's going on?
3 Goose shows in 2024, including both nights of Goosemas in Charleston, South Carolina. I know. Now, the 2 Fish shows were at the Sphere. I feel like those should probably count for more than just like your average, like just 1 on the list.
Or less, because they aren't really true Fish shows because they had to abide by a certain template given the particulars of the venue.
That's a fair counterpoint by you. Here's what I'll say. You are a Connecticut resident, correct?
I am a Connecticut resident who, when
native.
Goose started, was playing. Now, I didn't know Goose was a thing in doing this, but as coincidence would have it, I played, guitar duo with a buddy. We still get out here every now and then, but it's been a minute.
Opened for Goose.
No, we did not. But we literally would play at this spot in Norwalk, Connecticut. That was, when I say stone's throw, I literally mean it. Like you could have taken a rock and thrown it to the other spot where Goose really kind of like, cut its teeth, so to speak. And who would have known? This would have been over like a 2-year stretch. This is like 2013, 2014, something like that. So What's wild is that I was just hacking it, playing 85% cover songs at these gigs, and meanwhile this young up and coming group was from Norwalk, Connecticut. I
think you sent me like a grainy, like not even HD video of a Goose concert. I think you sent it to me via Facebook Messenger, and I remember being like, I don't have time for this. I can't. I've got kids. I'm trying to keep up with the guys from Vermont. Like I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth. And here we are. Yeah, 3 Goose shows in 2024. Sad.
Where are you at? Where are you at with Goose?
I think those guys can play. It is a very different scene. I don't even want to say very different. It's just it's a friendly place, man. I don't feel threatened at a Goose show. Let's put it that way.
Do you feel threatened at a Fish show?
Occasionally, yes. There are parts of the experience that you need to be alert for. You just need to be. You got to be locked in. You got to just, there's a lot of things going on in the peripheral. Like the Nitrous Mafia has not shown up at a Goose show yet.
What's the Nitrous Mafia for those that might not be aware?
It's a group of people. Maybe they're loosely associated with organized crime. I'm kidding. They basically just show up with nitrous tanks and sell balloons at concerts, okay? You normally if you can't see them, you can hear them. You just hear the tss, tss in the background. You're like, what's all this plastic wrapping all over the floor? What is all this rubber? These like, did somebody have a party out here? No, those are balloons. Anyway, we can save that for another show. You're still clinging to that Oasis concert ticket for the summer, aren't you?
I got it. You know what's funny is
There's a lot of time between now and then, brother.
No, I purchased it. We haven't talked since I got that. We'll say that's another show. But I have 2 tickets to see Oasis at MetLife Stadium in September. But it's funny you bring this up because it was
8
all
months
of
between now
3
and
days
then.
ago, 3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. For a good month and a half, I had forgotten that this was going to happen. Then I had the tickets, and then it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to see Oasis in 2025. Let's go."
Well, you're scheduled to see. Hang on, just because you have the ticket
It's going to happen.
doesn't mean that the show's ever actually going to happen. Because we got to get through the European swing first, and then we got to get to the States. And who the hell knows how the Gallagher brothers are going to be acting by the time September 2025 rolls around?
It's a future now spinning.
That's the show. More to come. Norlander will be back in the saddle with us hopefully 2 days a week. We got to get through the end of football season, which, folks, I got to be honest, man, it's been the longest. I don't want to say it hasn't been enjoyable. The regular season was a lot more enjoyable than the playoffs.
We plan to talk next Monday, the day of we're going to do a basketball show the morning of the national title game.
As one does.
And then we're going to lay out at least 10 to 12 minutes of football takes. I want to hear yours. I'm going to have a few in the holster. You know it's coming with me. I know you're so thrilled that this is extending all the way to January.
17-week college football season. That's a thing that we do now in 2024, 2025. That's a real thing. Not the NFL. College football, 17 games. Here we go. Norlander, we'll check you out on Twitter, on Blue Sky, CBS Sports, HQ, the whole shebang, Eye on College Basketball with Gary Parrish. Thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, bud.
Thank you for listening. So long.